I'm your host, Iridian Fierro, and this is the Powerbomb Podcast. This podcast is about wrestling, the indie scene, and WWE. It being the first episode, I thought that a proper introduction of what you could look forward to from this podcast was needed. The Powerbomb Podcast is written and produced by me. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I've watched wrestling since I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and I fell in love with Shawn Michaels and John Cena, of course. Wrestling was something that I started watching with my dad. I just thought it was so entertaining, like it hyped me up, and there was a time where I wanted to be a wrestler and I thought I was gonna like tag team with Trish or like be a mixed tag team with John Cena. But that didn't happen. So in this podcast, I'm going to interview wrestlers and talk about their lives and how they got to where they are and how they're going to get to where they want to be. I will talk a lot about the WWE because it's what I know the most about. I will dabble in the indie scene, I know the good stuff. Some episodes will be dedicated solely to the interviews, and some episodes will be dedicated to the history of wrestling, like the women's evolution and how that started, and even where wrestling started and how that came up. If you think that this is a podcast that you could really listen to, then make sure you follow me on Twitter so you can keep up with all of the updates at Iridian_Fierro. That's Iridian, IRIDIAN_Fierro, FIERRO on Twitter to keep updated on the Powerbomb Podcast. And this first episode, I have an interview. It's time for the Powerbomb interview. I'd like to introduce you to an indie wrestler named Justin Main. Justin lives in Michigan. Now, when we were setting up this interview, it's over the phone, and we did not account for the time difference when we were scheduling the call. But after we figured it out, it was all good. When were you first introduced to wrestling?
So I first watched wrestling when I was a wee little boy. I think I was maybe 7 or 8. My first actual memory of me ever checking out wrestling was watching Sting drop down from the rafters during an episode of Nitro. And literally just putting the whooping on the NWO with his bat. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, just watching this real life guy just completely annihilating 20-something people. So ever since then, I was hooked to it.
Is that what made you want to become a wrestler?
I guess at an early age, I pretty much understood that I wouldn't be able to be a Power Ranger. So that was, I didn't think that was going to be a viable career option. So, I always enjoyed it. And then I went to a show in 2005. It was a Survivor Series in Detroit. And I sat 5th row. It's a huge CM Punk fan, right when he was starting to come out and break out into the mainstream. I went and I sat in 5th row, and I remember the Ric Flair and Triple H last man standing match that they had. They kind of brawled out into the crowd, and I went to go grab my camera to take a picture, and as soon as I turned around, I got knocked down over a bunch of chairs. So I'm like, what the hell was that? And I look back up, and I see Triple H standing right there, right above me. And as soon as I looked back up and I saw him there, Ric Flair just completely came over and just beat the snot out of him. I'm thinking oh my God, these two legends of the business are right next to me, and I literally just got hit by them. That's so cool. So ever since then, I kind of wanted to get into it more from a career perspective. Being able to entertain people to that effect and really almost make it life changing, that was profound to me. And I had always wanted to be an actor. So at that time, I was out of acting, and I just kind of put 2 and 2 together and decided to call myself a pro wrestler.
Yeah, and it made sense. How did you start?
Yeah, it made sense.
How did you start training? How does one go about becoming a professional wrestler? Where do you sign up for that?
So there's a couple different ways. Obviously, I'm going to give you the best recommendations. Number one, you got to find a reputable school. That's probably the biggest thing. A lot of people will sign up at whatever school is nearby, and that's not necessarily the direction you want to go in. Find out what is the most reputable school, or at least one of the most reputable schools in that area or in that state. I know in Illinois, I think Black and Brave is pretty good. So you might want to check that one out. But for me, it was a Wellington Wrestling Academy. I got to work, and I got to be trained by the guy that trained Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley and a few other guys. So that was good training on my end. I know there's House of Truth over here, and then the Blue Water Championship Wrestling Academy, which is really good, and then Can-Am right across the border at Windsor. But yeah, find a school. Number two, just work out Like, you'd be surprised how many people, like, don't work out. And you would think with wrestling, which is a very athletically based endeavor, I don't want to call it a sport, but it's definitely, like, you have to be in shape for it in order to really get anywhere with it. Please go to the gym. Please lift. Please do cardio. Don't look like you're dying in the ring. You're barely hanging on. Like, it's not good for a performance, and it's not good for your opponent. So, and on top of that, like, if you really want to make it somewhere, you have to have a viable look. That's probably, like, the best recommendation I can give outside of going to a school. Number 3, take care of yourself. A lot of guys just kind of, like, have, like, a super generic look, or they're really dirty as hell. So, like, take care of yourself, tan, get your hair cut, you know, just keep yourself looking nice. This is entertainment. You don't see any dirty, disheveled actors out there, so you don't want to have the same type of effect with wrestling, unless it fits your gimmick. But even then, still stay clean.
Yeah.
I would say number 4, learn how to market yourself and learn how to use social media. That's a big thing in today's day and age to really master, is how to have social media etiquette. Like, for example, don't ever post about, like, politics or religion or stuff like that, especially if you're trying to gain, like, an audience, because all it takes is one person to get, like, super offended by what you post, even though obviously everybody should have an opinion. But I mean, if you lose one fan, you lose merchandise sales, and then you lose a ticket, which can affect, you know, your drawing power and all that. So you got to be careful with what you say. You have opinions, say behind closed doors. You don't always have to, like, spell them out in the media. Mm-hmm. But that's going to be another big one. And just learn how to market yourself. You know, have, like, your own logo, have, like, your own T-shirts and 8x10s and stuff like that, because a lot of where your sales are going to come from is not from wrestling. It's going to be from merchandise. So know how to do that. That's going to be a big thing.
Since we are talking about marketing yourself, I know that you are great on Instagram and on Twitter, and you even have a YouTube channel. Can you talk about a little bit what you post up on YouTube?
So I actually have 2 YouTube channels. I have one that's dedicated only to, like, acting and pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. So I'll put a lot of my short films, a lot of my commercials, stuff I've done acting-wise on there. And then I will also put, like, matches, highlight videos, interviews, stuff like that on that YouTube. And then I have one that's directly affiliated with fitness and nutrition, because I work full-time as a personal trainer. And I've had a lot of people ask me, like, just like about different recommendations with, like, supplements and nutrition and how to lose weight and how to build muscle and all that. So I figured I'd just make a separate one for that. So I have both of those online. You can look up the fitness channel by Justin Main Fitness on YouTube. I don't have a custom URL for that one yet, but the other one for the wrestling and acting is Justin Main. So just look up Justin Main and you should be able to find it, no problem.
How does your family feel about you wrestling? Did you go up to your parents and were like, hey, I'm not going to be a Power Ranger anymore. I'm going to be, like, a wrestler. Is that okay?
Well, they were awfully disappointed with the fact that I wasn't going to be the White Ranger. It was disappointing to me at first, but it is what it is. You know, I don't have, you know, this big white jumpsuit. Well, actually, I take that back. I did actually make one.
Wow, okay, revealing.
Anyway, so, I was going off on a tangent right there, but no, my family was pretty good with it. My mom was, she's always nervous about, like, that type of stuff. Like, she's always asking me, like, are you okay? Did you hurt anything today? You know, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's your family. They get nervous about, you know, anytime you're jumping off of a ladder or you're getting slammed down on your back or all that fun stuff. But my mom's very supportive of it. My dad is also very supportive too. My grandma, on the other hand, is not too keen about it. The extended family is not very they're very on the fence about it. They always have been, and I'm like 9 years in, so it's one of those things where they kind of, like, support it, but they don't like it per se. But people think it's cool. So.
Can you describe the first time you stepped into a ring and what that felt like?
My first actual pro wrestling match was at a market, I think in Waldron, Michigan. It's, like, way out in the boonies. It's, like, I think I'm somewhere in the middle or the west side of the state, near the bottom. I remember being backstage because we were getting dressed in, like, some sort of break room, and then we'd have to make our way outdoors, and the actual ring was set up in the parking lot. So we would do that, and I remember finally feeling like, oh, good, I'm ready. I feel like I can do this. I was nervous beyond belief, though, because the guy that I was wrestling was, like, I think, like, 270 and, like, 6'6". And at that time, I was maybe, like, 185 and 5'10".
Wow.
So it was my first match. I'm much smaller than this guy. I'm going to die. So it was fun, though. Like, I had fun. I was nervous about just trying to, remember everything that I had learned. But no, I had a lot of fun. I was a bad guy in that match, so I was the guy that was just kind of egging on the crowd. And I think I did a good enough job, because during intermission I had like a whole bunch of kids kicking me and trying to hit me and all that stuff. So it was a good time.
Some people think that wrestling is fake and that the moves are fake, but like as a professional wrestler, what is your point of view on that? What do you have to say to everyone else that thinks that they can get in there and do it?
I look at it in this, I'll probably get heat for saying this, because some old school wrestlers don't like exposing the business, and I'm not really exposing the business, but at this point in time right now, we all know wrestling is entertainment. It's I don't want to call it strictly sports entertainment. It's pro wrestling, but in the end of it, it's entertainment. I look at it as kind of like a magician or an illusionist. What you're seeing is, I don't want to say fake, but it's an illusion. Okay? But the really, really good magicians and the really good illusionists make you question that. And that's kind of what pro wrestling is. Pro wrestling is like right on the barrier of that. We're trying to keep each other safe. We're not trying to kill each other. But at the same time, there are moves that hurt, and they do connect. So there are little fluctuations in that question and how to answer that. But I mean, pro wrestling is basically everything that you could possibly think of entertainment-wise. It's improv. It's magic. It's a rock concert. It's theater. It's stage acting. It's stunt work. It's sports athletics. I mean, it's literally everything. And the great ones of this business know how to blend all of that together and make it to the point where you can't really tell if it's real or if it was planned out.
That's a great explanation. I've never heard it explained so articulately, I guess.
Well, wrestling is art, and I don't think it gets enough credit for that. Pro wrestling is art, because everybody has their own definition and their own style, just like artists do. Everybody has their own painting stroke and technique, and the methods of how they go about doing it, whether it's watercolor or ink or stuff like that. Pro wrestling is the same way. Some guys, they do strong style and they beat the crap out of each other. And then other guys are more comedy based. They like to have comedy matches. And then other people are, storytellers. They like to tell a story very similar to like how a movie unfolds. So it's everybody has their different definition of it. So that's why I like pro wrestling, because you can put your own spin on it. For every person, it's different.
What does your schedule look like right now between training, between wrestling, between working your other job? How does that look like? I know it's a lot. You wear a lot of hats.
It's chaotic. I don't know how I'm actually living right now. It's very hard. But to give you kind of like an idea of how how a sample week would go, if I have all three things hitting at the same time, this is typically how it goes. So I work Monday, shoot job, the personal training job from 8 to 4, and then I go immediately to Windsor, and then I train at the Can-Am Wrestling Dojo just for technique from 6 until 10. Then I have to wake up, go to work full-time the rest of the week. If I have auditions, I'll have to do those in the morning, or if I'm lucky, I can leave work and attend it in the afternoon, but typically I'll have to drive over 45 minutes to get to my auditions. That's usually about 2 minutes. Then drive 45 minutes back, go back to work. As soon as I get back home, working on video editing and graphic design, because I have to work on marketing material to get my YouTube videos online by Thursday and Friday, so I'm working on those usually on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And then if I have an acting job, that's usually on a Friday or something like that. So that'll be a good 12-hour day, just depending on what type of job it is, if it's a commercial or if it's a film. Be on set all day for that. And then I have a wrestling show on a Saturday. So if I'm lucky, it's about within 2 hours, so I don't have to devote the whole day to it. But then I'll go to that on a Saturday. Don't get back home until probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And then on Sunday, it's hit and miss. If I don't have anything, I just literally lounge around and I sleep. I don't do a damn thing. Aside from the rest of the week, if I have stuff to do, I'll shoot videos or I'll edit videos on that Sunday. If I do have stuff to do, typically it's either going to be full-time work related, so I'll come in to work for like 4 hours, or I'll just work on something else around the house. I'm always constantly doing something, so I'm not really usually relaxed. I think this past Sunday was like the first full day off I've actually had in a long time, and even then I was working on my acting resume like literally all day.
That sounds so hectic all week. I would be so stressed.
It is very hectic.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm trying to picture like all of your schedule like mapped out in a planner, like what that looks like.
I don't even have a planner. I'm just literally flying.
You're just on the fly? What?
Well, I use my calendar on my phone, so that's like how I keep track of everything. But yeah, I'm literally flying by the skin of my teeth here.
That is
so
insane.
Every day is different. Like you can go like. That's why I hate planning things, because even if I do plan out a week, 9 times out of 10 it's going to change. Like if I have, most of the time with like acting, for example, they'll give you like a last second audition notice, and it's usually like within 1 to 2 days of the email they send you, if that. It's usually the day after. So then I have to figure out schedule-wise how I'm going to be able to make the audition, and then I have to figure out when I'm going to be able to like video edit and graphic design and all that, and it's just
Wow.
that's why I'm single. I don't
because you have no time.
It's hard for me to date anybody.
Justin, I've seen some of the stuff that you've like done with WWE where you come in as like a local competitor against a big name, or one time there was a video that you posted and you were a security guard for Triple H, I think. And
no, it was for Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman, yes. Okay, so how does that happen? Did you put your name in a hat and you got picked, and congratulations, like you get to be in the segment?
I mean, every single time that they use you for a segment, it's always different. It depends on how many people they have there. That was actually an interesting scenario because that was in Pittsburgh, and I had never worked the Pittsburgh market before, nor did I have myself selected for Pennsylvania. So they actually just called me, I think like a week prior to that actually happening, and asked me if I was able to do it. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm not going to turn down WWE. So I went down there, and I think it was myself and I think like maybe 4 other extras for that they were using. Mm-hmm. We found out like literally as soon as we got there that they wanted to have us for the security segment for Paul Heyman, and I mean the rest is history. But that was an interesting experience because like a couple of days prior to that, I had actually bruised my ribs.
Really?
And yeah, so I didn't tell anybody there. Obviously, you don't want to.
Of course.
Sometimes like you have to tell them about injuries, but if you tell them that like you're still injured, it's a little.
They'll second guess it, and they won't send you out there.
Yeah, they don't know if they're going to use you.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell them, and when we got into the segment, Triple H just started like kneeing me in the gut, like right in the ribs. And I was like, oh, God.
No.
this kind of sucks. This kind of sucks right now. And then we got to the back, and there's like this little part during the segment where I was kind of like nervous about it because when we were going after Triple H, one of the other security guys, his name is Ben Boone, fell behind me, and when I was backing up, I tripped over him. And you can watch it in the video. Like it almost looked like some sort of funny little sketch, like these dumb security guards are just, they can't even keep their their crap straight.
Yeah.
So so I backed up and I tripped over him, and Triple H, thank God, covered the whole thing.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so I was so nervous after that. I was like, oh man, I botched this segment. It was terrible. And the cool thing was, and not to pull the veil back too much, but I got a lot of compliments backstage about the segment. Yeah.
You sold it.
I had Mark Carano. And Mark Carano was a VP of Talent Relations. You can see him on Total Divas. And then I actually had Triple H pull me aside and tell me that like the segment went really well and he was happy with the work. So it was that was a nice little feather in my hat, like having that happen, because I know that does not happen to a lot of extras. They don't usually get pulled aside and told they did a great job, and
especially not by Triple H.
Yeah, especially not from Triple H at all. So
yeah.
like, well, the funny thing was, they didn't tell me what exactly the reason why they were wanting to talk to me. They just said that Triple H wanted to talk to me. So I'm thinking like, oh God, I'm never going to be invited back again. And he ended up complimenting me. So it was nice.
That's awesome. Have they invited you back yet?
I've been back a few times since then. I've had a total of 22 calls from WWE about being like an extra. I've had, I think, 10 or 11 like actual match tryouts. So, and that's been since 2012. I think my most recent was December 2016.
Wow, that is really recent.
Yeah.
Would you recommend someone who hasn't seen wrestling before to go and watch a live match?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because there's nothing... Well, I don't want to say it's not very similar, because it is, but TV and like videotape matches can change the feeling of what a live match feels like. You have the crowd around you, which helps bring in a lot of that emotion and that tension that people just can't get the same type of effect on TV. So I would suggest going to a live match and just seeing how they perform, because you have a whole new respect once you see it live, especially considering like it almost plays off as like a cartoon or stunt work on TV. So when you see it live and you actually see these guys falling and hitting hard and getting hit, and like you can feel the impact of everything, then you have a whole newfound respect for pro wrestlers.
Where would you see yourself in the next 10 years, let's say? Where do you want to be career-wise?
Well, I'd like to be signed to a national promotion. That would be nice. I always told myself that I'd give myself into the age of 35 to see if I can get a contract. If I don't, like, I have a big thing about, like, a healthy life and my body feeling good and being able to do the things that I want to do. So I always told myself by the age of 35, if I don't have a national contract, I'm going to either call it, I don't want to say call it quits, but I'm going to tail down my schedule and do it more for, like, a fun type of thing as opposed to just trying to make a career out of it. But ultimately, I would like to be in WWE, or just being able to make a living off of it, period. I want to be on a larger scale. I want to be seen, like, worldwide. I don't want to just keep working independence, even though there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I have bigger expectations for myself. Yeah. So there's that. I definitely want to make sure I can pursue acting more fully as well. So that's one thing that I feel like a lot of guys don't do, is they don't kind of like double dip and they don't figure out other areas that they can do that can also help out pro wrestling and even help get their name out there. Like, that's why I like a guy like Jarek 120, for example. He made his name based off of being a magician on YouTube and showing people how to do tricks and all that. And he has like almost 1 million subscribers. And look at him now. He's starting to work for Evolve. He's done a few things with WWE. Like, it's helping his gimmick out, and it's helping just get his name out there, which is nice. So, I look at acting as the same thing. I am my own brand. I'm not just Justin the pro wrestler, Justin the actor. I'm Justin Maine. So if you can take that as part of your influence, that can help out dramatically, as opposed to just kind of like strictly keeping yourself in one area. So I would definitely like to be somewhere with acting, at least making making a living off of that.
Yeah, you do have a lot of opportunities because you aren't just wrestling. You're also doing a YouTube channel. You also have a job, and you're also acting. So you have a lot of opportunities if wrestling does not work out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not everybody is going to be Ric Flair in this business and be able to do this stuff for like 30, 40 years. I know, like, my body has a shelf life, and almost every other single worker in this business does too. It's just whether or not you acknowledge it. You can keep going and push yourself to the brink of where your body is destroyed, or you can know when it's time. It's just like any other athlete. You're not going to see football players go 20 years unless they're like a kicker, like a field goal kicker or punter. Athletes have a shelf life. Yeah. So it's one of those things where you just have to acknowledge when it's time and then make the right call.
Yeah, I'm glad that you are acknowledging it. I know, like, WWE they keep bringing back legends, and I'm just like, their bodies cannot take it anymore. Just leave them alone. Let them retire. Like, poor Undertaker. Oh, my goodness. And, like, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, like, I get it. Like, Goldberg, I mean, okay, maybe he still looks decent, but just, like, let them retire.
Well, that's not always... Sometimes it is WWE, you know, making the call and seeing if they're still available, but it's also on the guys that are doing it too. You know, Undertaker has a complete say in whether or not he's going to come back.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to. He just wants to. And that's kind of how wrestling is. That's why a lot of wrestlers always say they're going to retire, and then like a year later they wrestle again. It just, you have a love for the business. There's an itch, and that's why I don't want to say I'm going to retire fully. I would just cut back my schedule, but that's just kind of like how wrestling is. As much as you hate some of the stuff in it, and trust me, there's a lot to hate about pro wrestling, you love, being able to entertain the crowd and performing and showing everybody that, what you can do.
All right, Justin, can you let the listeners know where they can find you if they're interested in looking up Justin Main?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to reach out to me on social media, my Facebook and my Instagram handles are at Justin Main Official. And Maine is spelled Mane, like a lion's mane. If you want to reach out to me on Twitter or Snapchat, my those handles are Justin Main Off.
Awesome, Justin. Thank you for doing this interview with me today. Sorry about the time again, but I do appreciate you taking the time off your busy schedule. Imagine if you had been like a Power Ranger. Imagine what that schedule would have been like.
I know, right?
It would have been insane. Right. All right, Justin. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome.
Have a good day.
Thanks for having me.
That's all for this episode of the Powerbomb Podcast. I'm your host, Iridian Fierro. Make sure you tune into the next episode. I will have an interview with the Fresh Prince of Midair and Rockstar Pro champion, Trey Miguel.